My name's Jonny Juarez. I'm 39 years old. I'm from Healdsburg, California, and I built the Rose Bike, which is a tribute to the Gypsy Rose that was built by Jesse Valdez. I built this Gypsy Rose 1969 Ironhead XLCH for a contest called Biltwell's People's Champ. With that contest, people would bring their A game every time. Every year, it's just getting better and better and better. And as a humble approach, I was like, how do I do something different? I knew I wanted to build a lowrider bike for that contest, and I wanted to do something nobody had done yet. And after being a fan of lowrider cars all my life, the Gypsy Rose stood out. And I really thought about the idea. I did some sketches, and I felt that the only way to do that would be reach out and ask permission, to be honest. So I reached out to Cindy Valdez. I didn't really expect anything, and I wasn't gonna do it had I not got the okay. So I reached out to Cindy Valdez and gave her the rundown of what I wanted to do. She had some questions, obviously. And after going back and forth a little bit and discussing the plan and the idea, I got the blessing. The Imperial's Car Club knew I was doing it, and that was huge. Cindy helped me find Remo, the painter. With that, we found Bill Hines' grandson had given him, or he had gotten some Murano from him. So it's got Murano all through the paint. I reached out and I found Don Heckman. Don Heckman, along with, or Walt Pratt, along with Don Heckman, painted the Gypsy Rose, the original car. And he was a really awesome guy. He gave me a rundown on how they did the layout. He sent me photos, discussed the style of bike I was doing. And that was cool because he was into choppers, and so he's got, had ridden them and has some, and he was down with the idea. The Sissy Bar, I bent the Sissy Bar like a lowrider bike because as a child I grew up building lowrider bikes since the mid-90s. To have the stance, the bat wings, you needed to have a bat wing, the tank needed to be right, and there's so many different ways to do this, but I just thought all the edging, 1/4 inch rod going through everything. I love the rose in here. I wanted it to almost look like a piece of candy, and I think they did that, and I think that Remo and Tunes One, who painted it into the stripe work, I think they nailed it. The wheel was a big deal. Craigers, and that era, the Supremes and the Craigers and everything, and that car having those wheels, it needed to have that wheel. And my buddy Rick, he came up with that bad puppy, and we took 2 faces. He had to cut it and build all the pieces on the inside, and that is just mind-blowing. When you actually look at how clean that wheel is and the fact that it's balanced and everything's right, it's mind-blowing. The engine came out of an old Carl Sims show bike from 1978. It was issued in 79, an old chopper mag. I found that bike from a local legend around here named Austin Hall. And I pulled the motor out of that, and people thought I was crazy for that, but I needed the perfect motor for this bike. Polished cases, it had some history to it, it ran great. Brought to Paul JFR, he went through it, dialed it in. There's like little personal things that are cool to me, like this headlight. It's just a Unity headlight, but my friend Jeff Montgomery ran it on his show bike. Just took a bunch of awards. Sentimental value, and it's been on 2 show bikes, so I think that's cool, in its own sense. The risers were given to me by my friend Jacob Crane. And that was a whole pain in the ass, but we got them to work. They looked like old Schwinn. I had to have them because they looked like old Schwinn goosenecks. Those things are perfect. The frame is just a Paco frame, Sportster gas tank that we narrowed and slapped on there. My buddy Bean helped with some stuff. The oil bag, same concept. We just wanted to make everything kind of molded and tight. The only thing I wanted to be able to come on and off was the fender. Okay. On the Gypsy Rose driver's side door, there was like the crest with Walt Cray and Don Heckman's name, the painters. And I thought that was really cool and important. And so what we did is we put Gypsy Valadez Sr. and then Junior's name under it to keep it as close to what the car has on it. On the opposite side, we did the painters, which was Remo and Tunes. To be honest, this is probably one of the most important parts of the motorcycle. Because without that man's vision, lowrider cars would not be what they are today, 100%. They would be beautiful and classy, but they wouldn't have taken it to that next level. I mean, that car fucking did this, you know? And it affected so many different cultures. It's not just lowriders. You know, the van paint job started getting crazier after that. Things started getting crazy. And it was that man's vision, 100%. So the homie from 4th Floor Choppers, he did People's Champ a few years earlier, and he built a bike called the Gypsy Prince. He had this part on his handlebars for that show, and he took it off and got a hold of me and asked me if he wanted to put Rose on there, and I was like, fuck yeah, dude. So he sent that thing over. So that thing's been on 2 People's Champ bikes, which I think is cool. And I don't know about you, but I like my lowriders with long pipes, you know. So I added in, I said 12 earlier, but it's 14 and 16 inches to lengthen them. Played with the swoop a little bit. You got to have the fishtail. The heart, you know, that's probably one of my favorite parts. I molded that all in, a little bit of metal, and then going over it with body filler. But to me, it was before this was even going to be the Gypsy Rose. I started doing a little bit of the molding on it. I wanted something. I knew I wanted it to be a little more softer and more of a positive trip, you know? And so I knew that I was like, as I was doing it, I started sketching a heart with a pencil one day, and I was like, man, I just want a little heart right here, just to make it a little bit more happy, if that makes sense. The seat, it had to be the biscuit tug. So my buddy Dave Klein came and sat in my living room for 3 hours and mapped it all out to make sure it was perfect. Shannon Lee Creations, the homie I went to school with. So the tail light, that came all the way from Australia. From HAC, he makes beautiful taillights, and we started talking. He goes, man, I would love to do the taillight for that motorcycle. So I wanted the chain steering wheel because it reminds me of the cars and the bicycles. When you're a kid, you got your chain wheels. Sissy Bar, 90 degree, just like an old lowrider bike would have done. You know, that's in the 90s when I was a kid, in the early 90s and mid 90s, that's what you did. You would find your Sissy Bar and get it hot, bend it. When I decided to do a lowrider chopper, which pretty much I don't think had ever been done to this degree at the time. I love motorcycles and I love choppers, and I love, you know, all the different styles, from the 30s race bikes to the 40s bobbers and early 50s into like the mid 60s chopper, all the way to the 70s. And that's a big part of my life and who I am. That is a huge part of my life, you know. I have these things in my living room. I built this bike in my kitchen in my living room. I love motorcycles, but I love lowriders, and I wanted to bring something, knowing that I was going to go down to LA to show this at one of the biggest shows in America, and that a big percentage of the people wouldn't understand what the hell I was doing with this pink bike. And I thought that was okay, because the gratitude and the grateful and the support and everybody that came up to me at the show, this massive show, and were like, the Gypsy Rose. And I was like, this is for you. This isn't for everybody else. This is for you. You know, everybody was for them, because these people from the chopper world, they love other shit just like all of us, you know? They love lowriders. Some of them love lowriders. And so to them, it actually meant something, because these are like motorcycle fanatics that do have a respect for lowrider world, you know, or have lowrider cars, or have had them in the past. And they got it, you know, and it was cool because it wasn't for everybody, and it didn't need to be. It was for us, you know. It was for the ones who actually appreciate lowrider cars and culture as a whole.